Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. It is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. I'm Jer Stays, and across from a very short TV table from me is
Shianne.
How are you?
I am good. I'm better than I was a couple weeks ago. So, yeah.
Fought the vid.
I did.
That's why you were off the air for a little bit.
Yes, but I am all better now.
You know, we had everybody on the team deal with some crap at the same time.
Yeah.
It was very annoying.
It was.
But we are here now.
We are.
And we have a lot to talk about. You know, yesterday was election day. Now we're going to do a big unpack with Steve Freese. But you got thoughts on a couple of things, and I don't want to take the mic away from you on it. So let's start with where you live. The 11th District, Congressional District.
Yes. So I do live in the 11th Congressional District. And
apparently last week you lived in the 11th Congestional District as well.
I did, yeah. But so, yeah, that was the Haley Stevens, Andy Levin race.
Now, were you surprised at that number? 60-40?
No, honestly, I wasn't. I feel like considering that district and where I live in Oak Park. So that does come down to Oak Park, Ferndale, and in that area. But it also goes all the way up to like Waterford, right?
Yeah.
So, and west, right? Like Commerce Township and stuff. So I was not surprised that Haley Stevens won because she is more moderate than Levin is.
Right. Even though I think there's a lot of people who were, you know, in Ferndale and nearby who are very upset. Ferndale is still kind of a small enclave when you set it in the context of Metro Detroit.
Right. I mean, and then even if you think about it, if you go north, Clawson is a lot more conservative, and that's in the 11th district as well. So I was not surprised that Levin lost. I also kind of agree with Steve from yesterday's show where what was his campaign?
Now, cards on table, you actually voted for Andy, right?
So I did vote for Andy because he is more progressive than Haley Stevens is. And my thought was, well, I will give it to Levin because I know that Haley's going to win anyway. But I do agree with a lot of his platform and everything. So I did vote for him with the knowledge that I know I'm going to vote for Stevens in the general.
Now, there's been a lot of talk online about outside money coming into this race. AIPAC, Jewish issues. Do you feel that it made a huge impact? I have my own thoughts, but
I don't really think it made that big of a difference. And I do think that Levin, like Steve said yesterday, like I basically agreed with everything Steve said, where Levin was just trying to rely on his name alone. And also a couple weeks ago when everybody, like all of those congresswomen went in front of the Supreme Court and got arrested for protesting, and Andy Levin was the only one there who was a man. Yeah, I know he's pro-choice, but also it felt kind of performative to me.
Interesting. Okay.
So it kind of felt a little disingenuous. I know he meant well, but also I felt like it was like he was trying to be like, look at me. And that kind of was like a turnoff to me.
I would have thought that there would be more impact of that money if it were a closer race. Mm-hmm. But Levin's favorability in polling wasn't that bad. And I think people just had a clear choice in their mind. You know, it is what it is. That district is what it is, you know, and it will be for the next 10 years. And I understand as a Detroit resident how frustrating it is.
Mm-hmm, I know.
When you see the rest of your district kind of go in a different way. We'll unpack that Sri Tanadar race, that 13th district with Steve a little bit. It's interesting how redistricting changes everything.
It is. It feels very strange to not have any African-American person in Congress, state.
From the city of Detroit.
From the city of Detroit, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, too, though, about the impact of the abortion rights debate, Roe versus Wade, the Dobbs decision. Do you sense that people are mobilized?
I definitely sense that people are mobilized. I definitely feel it from groups I'm in, just regular discourse. I think that with the Dobbs decision, it really made people who were even people who thought they might be pro-choice or pro-life, I think some people are actually coming to the realization that, oh, this actually is not a good thing. And I think that they're using their voice by voting.
I've learned with people over the years that if you take something away from them, they really don't like it. Whatever it is, even if they didn't necessarily always use it before, if you take away the option, people get upset about it. Do you think that this awoke people who would not normally participate among the people that you talk to in the senses you have? And how did it impact you personally? Like for you, how did you feel about it?
I do think it's awoke a sleeping giant. I think that while the pro-life movement is very loud, I don't think that they are the majority. I think it is a small minority of people who have big mouths, right?
And strong convictions.
And strong convictions. And anybody who has a very strong conviction will be as loud as they possibly can be to get their beliefs and push them onto other people. I have always been pro-choice. I've always been, while I might not ever do or have an abortion, it is not my right to tell another person what they can and cannot do with their body. And it also, once again, opens up a whole line of what is a health procedure and bringing the government into it. And I also feel like for people who are conservative and people who are Republican in their small government, I also find it's kind of ironic that you are bringing the government into your lives.
I think this highlights a group that used to be far more present years ago. I think about when Granholm was governor, right? A group of people, which I think is a large group, they, unless it's an absolutely critical situation, wouldn't get an abortion themselves unless they absolutely had to, but they don't want it to be a law that it's off the table. Right. And I think that line, that middle line where I feel like a lot of Michiganders are and Metro Detroiters got erased in the partisan divide. But I think a lot of people actually sit there.
Mm-hmm. And I think that we're seeing this also with that petition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people came out in droves to sign it, to say, hey, we want to make this decision. And so I guess we'll see in a couple months where we land.
All right, let's get more local. There's some business news, there's some updates, some things for sale, some things closing down that we want to talk about. First off, Indian Village Market, longstanding place on Jefferson Avenue near the iconic, of course, Indian Village, now kind of known as The Villages. I remember shopping there as a child with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
For sale, $2.4 million.
Man, I also have fond memories.
And it's a business for sale, so
right.
You could own the market.
You literally.
King of the grocery store.
So I also have memories of going to Village Market and shopping for like things, bread specifically. This is before we realized that bread isn't good for birds. But my dad and stepmom and I would go stop there on our way to Belle Isle. We'd go and buy a bunch of stuff. We'd go buy a bag of apples for the deer. We'd go across the bridge. We'd go to Belle Isle. We'd spend the day. We'd feed all the animals. And so I just always have fond memories of like stopping in there and shopping.
I mean, it's an accessible kind of market now, but I imagine if they do keep it a grocery store, that there would be some changes over time because it's one of the areas of Detroit. There are areas that are having trouble keeping population, but it doesn't seem like that's one of them.
No, it's not. I feel like a lot of people are trying to either stay in the villages or move into the villages.
And you got the whole Gold Coast too, all those apartments right across the street.
Yep, exactly. So I think that this is a great potential for a updated store. I know like in the past couple years, it's been kind of run down a bit, but like the last time I went, but I think it would be really great to get a nice little grocery store, like keep the grocery store, right? We need it. And just like make it nice and people will buy it.
Two things. The last time I went there, I was feeling nostalgic and I bought myself a case of Little Hugs. So if anyone's into the barrel drinks or remembers the barrel drinks, I grew up on those as a kid.
I taste the sweetness now.
Right? Number two, the walking infrastructure across that market could be really improved. Jefferson is a gargantuan road. It feels as wide as a freeway. It would be really good to kind of tie that other riverside onto that a whole lot better with better walking infrastructure. I feel like that's something that maybe can be addressed when they redo a lot of Jefferson in the next coming years. But tying those places together could be really powerful with the park that's right there and all that. There's multiple reasons to do it.
Yeah, I think a road diet on Jefferson would be a great thing. So my next story is actually about the Schwitz over in your neck of the
You're
woods.
schwitzing me.
Yeah. So the owners of the Schwitz have just bought a former convent over in Bangletown.
That is in the North End neighborhood. It's been around for many, many years. Has a long, interesting story. If you ever talk to the people around, it's crazy.
It is crazy. At Purple Gang, you've got swingers, you've got all kinds
In
of
the
stuff.
past, let's be clear, in the past.
In the past couple of years since they've bought it, they've completely put in a ton of work and a ton of money and completely changed the idea of what the Schwitz could be.
A lot of people that I know love it very much. I have not been, which is a shame. But a lot of people I know, close friends, are big fans of the Schwitz.
Exactly.
So what are they going to be doing over in Bangletown?
So it is like a 20-bedroom building, like house, and they're going to use the small private rooms for...
Is it a house?
No, it is not. They're going to call it the convent. But they're going to use it for practitioners. So you think massage therapists, acupuncturists, artists, all kinds of things, like holistic. And so really, like when you think about it, if you look at the Schwitz, they have a lot of people come in to do like pop-ups. So like, and they provide services for people. It would be really great that they can now give these practitioners like a private space that they can utilize all the time. And then they're going to be using the former chapel and like public areas for public events. And so, you know, they'll have art galleries and all kinds of stuff. So I think it's really cool that they're going to be utilizing the space and kind of expanding outwards.
See, every time I walk Gabby the studio dog, I want to ride in the limo.
I know.
Right? That thing is absurd.
It's absurd, but I love it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's part of the joy of it. So this may not be a direct schwitzing location.
No.
This is another vibe, kind of like the kind of up northy vibe that they just bought, right? Because they're expanding more.
Yeah. So they also bought like a little like vacation rental space up in Lexington. They're calling it the Schwitz up north. So, I mean, I think that they're really trying to expand their footprint and make nice community spaces for people.
You know what's underrated? There is a performance venue that years ago I saw the Cowboy Junkies at in Lexington. I don't know what it's called now. It was originally called the Lex MTC or whatever. It's built with all reclaimed materials. It's a newer venue, but it's built with reclaimed materials. So it's got more of that older vibe and sound. Absolutely great intimate venue. If for some reason you end up in Lexington, completely random fact. There you go.
That is very random, but awesome. So next story, Jer. Remember when we went to Bees in Eastern Market before the pandemic happened?
I remember it's the place to be. In fact, I think I still have their tumbler glass that they gave us for like the little media tour with Bees and the Squeeze.
Yeah.
And I know that we have some listeners over there too.
Yeah. So unfortunately, they will be closing their co-working / cafe.
Oh.
I know. It's sad. But they're going to be focusing on their Bees Squeeze lemonade business because that is booming.
Really?
Yeah.
So are they like in more stores or something?
Yeah. So they're currently in stores like across multiple states. They're in over 200 Walmarts and they're going to be expanding into Sam's Club. And I also saw that they're testing out in Costco's around Michigan.
Wow.
So
that's huge news. And it makes sense that you're going to want to focus. I think specifically about the ladies behind Drought and kind of wrapping up their retail space, even though that space, although beautiful, wasn't really like a lemonade flagship store.
No.
It's really difficult to split your time between different things, and running a venue is really difficult. Yeah. Didn't they rebuild that building from like the bottom up?
They did. And they put a lot of money into that building, but they rebuilt it. It's beautiful.
And it's Eastern Market, a little bit off the beaten path. That may be one thing that's not great from a foot traffic perspective. That's a little bit off. You got to know it's there.
Yeah. I think it'll be really interesting to see what goes in there. Now, there is going to be a new occupant. We just don't know who it's going to be yet. They're keeping their mouth shut. So they should be open in October.
I wonder if it will be B-class office space.
Stop it. So the last day for if you want to go to see and go and check out bees and maybe get a coffee or whatever is September 15th.
All right, so I don't always pull up these data things, right? Like in our inbox, we get lots of data stuff. Like the other day, I learned that the most searched band in Michigan was The Killers and the song Mr. Brightside.
Why?
That was a thing that, you know, you get 4 drinks in and you're a little heartbroken and you just sing Mr. Brightside. It happened. Look, it happened.
I will say that Mr. Brightside was one of the songs I listened to this morning when I took a shower. It was on a mix. It was on a playlist on Apple Music, and it just popped in.
So the actual data I want to talk about is that Royal Oak was named in the top 100 of places in the nation to live, number 63. It doesn't necessarily surprise me. And this to me highlights kind of the progress that Royal Oak is making because it's a very walkable city. Some of the things that livabilitycom highlighted was that residents enjoy a close-knit small town community vibe with all the perks of easy access to a big city. They also highlight their award-winning schools, nearly 50 parks, trendy downtown shopping and dining, which there's been a lot of change with. In fact, Little Tree left.
I know.
Is leaving. I'm not sure about the exact date.
I think they're close.
They're close, and they're going to Rochester Hills.
Yeah.
Which really hurt a lot of people's feelings because Little Tree introduced a lot of people to sushi. You also have the changes with the main art theater that we've covered. But Royal Oak is a place that people want to move into. And so your mix of things are going to change over time. And, you know, I'm sad about about the main art, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. It's literally gone.
I mean, we can't do anything about it now, Jer. It's rubble.
Real talk from Shianne here on Daily Detroit.
I was sad too. I poured one out for main art theater.
They also mentioned the zoo, which is, you know, technically still, you know, connected to Detroit in a way, but it's located right up there. And I can't help but think the energy that Southern Oakland County has is something that's been building for a while, that part of the Woodward Corridor, if you want a walkable space, if you want that density, now you could look at the numbers overall and say different places and whatever, but when it comes to having all your services, all your stuff, that Woodward Corridor, and I know this from listeners because we got a lot of listeners in there. I mean, Royal Oak may have gotten the nod in a way because it's the bigger of the cities or biggest of the cities, but that whole corridor kind of works as one. And in fact, when I lived in the University District, in a lot of ways, Ferndale was where a lot of my neighbors went and did things.
The reason we live in Oak Park is because my husband works in Auburn Hills when he goes to the office. And he only wants to live within the Woodward Corridor because of the proximity to him getting to work. He can take the freeway, but he can also take Woodward. And so whenever I'm looking for a new place to live, if that ever happens and the market does something that's not astronomical, we will be looking in.
Or we could become wealthy podcasters.
I mean, if people want to give us money.
Patreon.com/Daily Detroit. We've got a new batch of lasered glasses coming together. Patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Anyway, but you live by the zoo too, which has been great for the kids.
Yes. So we live by the zoo. We live by Ferndale. We live close to Royal Oak, which is where my son goes to school. I am an East Sider at heart, but the proximity to be able to get anywhere is really important to me.
So this doesn't surprise you?
No, not at all. I mean, and it's like when you look at the real estate of Royal Oak, it is just bananas. People are paying those prices.
All right, let's do a couple recommendations for people if they've never been to Royal Oak, because that's something I hear. People don't travel around the region. My favorite coffee shop to stop by because of the vibe and kind of the city feel, it's going to be Atomic Coffee. You know, the one with the big coffee cup on the corner. I love absurd, like street stuff for businesses like the Donkey and Hazel. I love that stuff. So the coffee cup drew me in. But when you go in, you're going to think you're in Chicago or something with the kind of vibe and density of that place. I've had many a meeting when I've needed to be in Royal Oak there.
Yeah, I do like Atomic Coffee. Another option for coffee is Proving Grounds, which is over on Washington. And I like that spot too because They've got really good pastry and really great coffee and tea, and it's nearby my son's school. So
Double win.
double win. And then also my hair salon is like right down the street.
So you're in Royal Oak all the time.
I'm in Royal Oak a lot. Yep. And I got a nice parking ticket. That's the one thing I don't like about Royal Oak is their new parking meter system.
Yeah, that's a bunch of crap.
It is horrendous. Anyway, I digress.
That's a whole nother thing in itself.
Yes.
Shianne Noserini, it's always good to see you.
It's great to see you too, Jer.
All right, with that, I'm Jer Stays. We will be back tomorrow and Friday with more episodes of the show. We are back on schedule. Remember that you are somebody to take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.
Bow, bow, bow.